But we did get to the crisis at the border. And of course, identifying it as a crisis is important. Look no further than number 45, who said you have to correctly identify the problem in order to address the problem. If you have Islamic terrorism, you must address Islamic terrorism. He caught a lot of flack on that one. Caught a lot of flack on everything, obviously. We have to address what the problem is. I'll give you an example. Let's say my roof fails, completely rots out. Okay, bad roof, get a new roof. Replace it. Roof goes bad again. Wow, I got another bad roof. Fix the roof. Roof goes bad again. Turns out, problem is not a bad roof. Problem is I have termites and they're eating my roof. If I keep addressing bad roof and fixing it, I'm going to continue to have to fix it because I have not addressed the actual problem. In this situation, this make-believe situation, my roof is bad. I address the wrong problem. Same situation here. If we don't address what the actual problem is, that it is a crisis. Are you overflowed? That's one level of response. Is the overflow lasted too long and we don't have the manning? That's a different response. If it is a crisis at the border to which you cannot adequately apply the law and adequately move these people to where they need to be to get them in and out of the system as efficiently as the law mandates, you have a crisis. If you're approaching it as a big problem, if you're approaching it as an obstacle or anything other than a crisis, you're going to keep getting a rotted roof. We have to know what the problem is here. Pointing the finger at Trump by saying, well, the numbers were going up over Trump, which somehow correlates to that's why the numbers are going up now. That doesn't do anything. Speaking of talking about Trump being the cause here and the numbers going up, I've had a lot of people on social media say, well, the numbers were going up under Trump. There was a spike under Trump. Okay, how does that have anything to do with what's going on right now? Well, it went up under Trump, so it's not Biden's fault. Biden's the president. Biden has put in place policies which are affecting what's going on at the border. Biden has removed policies which is affecting what's going on at the border. But if we could somehow say, well, Trump had numbers that were going up, so that must be why they're going up now. Correlation does not mean causation. For example, more people have ice cream in the summer. More people get sunburned in the summer. Ice cream causes sunburn. See? That's what we're doing here. Correlation equals causation. That's not what happened here. Let's look at what is actually happening. Let's identify it correctly. Let's approach it correctly. I was on Council of Colonels, which you all can find Tuesday nights at 7:30 here on ramtv.live or on Right America Media on Facebook. And I was speaking with them on Tuesday, and I mentioned to them that we have to be able to address this correctly, or else we're not going to be able to do it. And I'm going to keep harping on this. This is really important that we understand that we have to approach these problems for what they are. Joe today gave a little speech when he started off. He wanted to point at Trump a lot throughout it. He did want to tout some facts while he was talking. Did he get spoken over? Did he get debated with by the press? Was he constantly interrupted? Of course not. Absolutely, of course not. He wanted to point out in his presser today how these numbers went up under Trump, but what he left out was how did Trump address it? He did not bring up that Trump put in place what's called the Remain in Mexico plan, where Trump worked out with Mexico, hey, when I catch these guys coming over illegally, they're going back to you. That's known as a deterrent, Joe. That's known as a way to keep people from doing something. If they know there's a consequence, less people are likely to try to break that law. Joe wanted to repeatedly today mention how folks don't want to just upsell everything they have, make this huge trek and come to America. They're leaving a bad situation. Well, Joe, if they have a deterrent, like, I don't know, a wall and laws that are enforced and mandates in place that make them stay in Mexico, you're going to have less people that are going to up and sell their stuff and make the journey because life is bad where they are. Call me cruel. Sounds like it. I'm listening to myself talk. Call me cruel. It comes to a fundamental question of what is our responsibility to these other places. I understand we have the means to help. And to Joe's credit, he did talk about how he worked directly with the people of these other countries. For example, I'll give him some credit today. He didn't work directly with the government of Honduras, I think is what he cited. He worked with the localities in order to put up more streetlights because their studies showed that more streetlights lowered crime. So what he did there was he bypassed the corrupt government in order to get money in there. Not a terrible plan. However, how much of that is truly our responsibility? And I guess in this representative government, we could, pass some laws where people who represent us can go there and pass laws, or we could just have one person who decides, I'm going to spend $86 million on a hotel. He's spending $86 million on hotels, by the way, because of how over capacity they are at the border. Even though in the presser today, he wants to say that he's sending these people back. He's sending them back. Well, the $86 million for the homeless that are going into the hotels would say you're not sending them back, Joe. It just feels like it to me. When you have a catch and release, but you're not calling it catch and release, doesn't feel like you're sending them back to me, Joe. When you have a 1,556% overcapacity for the children's holding centers, not kids in cages. I'll show you more of that later. Not kids in cages. That doesn't seem to me like you're sending people back. And back to the $86 million. Does anyone else here love that out of nowhere, the president can just go, here's $86 million. I thought that the Congress controlled the money. Where'd that money come from? How do they do that? Call me ignorant. I feel really ignorant. Where did that money come from? I have no idea. But about $86 million. How? And did the press ask? Nope. If you missed it, the press didn't ask. They surely did not ask. I just want to know how they do it. How do they just come up with this money? We have separation of powers. One of those powers is the power of the purse. It goes to the Congress. But the executive branch, boom, $86 million. How about some transparency, Joe? Can you trace that for me? Can you say I pulled it from this budget that was approved? Can you say that it came out from this law from here, that I have the authority as the commander-in-chief? Can you do something for us, Joe? Because all you've told us, and the press didn't hold you to account, was pull $86 million out of thin air and use it for people who are here illegally. Don't mind the homeless that we have here. Don't mind the homeless veterans that we have here. We have people that are coming across illegally. They need a place to stay. Back to the border crisis. When the media starts covering you, Joe, and saying that you've got a problem with transparency, you've got a real problem, Joe. Juan, can you please play for me cut 4? Let's see what it's like for these children in these facilities.
More kids coming into U.S. custody, but just not enough space to put them in shelter. So that means that these kids are staying in Border Patrol facility for prolonged periods of time. And those are facilities that are not intended for them. They look like jail-like conditions, like prison cells with concrete walls and concrete benches. And these kids are spending more than the 3-day limit that they're supposed to, according to federal law. So the administration racing here to find enough space for these kids.
Jail-like conditions, not kids in cages. I told you we were going to talk about this later. Not kids in cages, everyone. Jail-like conditions. Did you see the strain as she said the administration is racing to address this problem? Did anybody ever do that for Trump when he had to race to fix a problem, to come in to help people out? When he brought in the naval ship, I think it was called the Mercy, into New York, and everyone said he couldn't do it, and he was able to work with the local authorities there and then got that ship in, which they didn't even use anyway, but it was quite the undertaking to get it there. Did anyone say he's racing to address this problem? Of course not. But when Joe has kids in jail-like conditions, not kids in cages, when you have them in jail-like conditions, then of course you have to strain and you have to show the empathy. Like you must embody the empathy of Papa Joe. We have more coming up on that soon. We have a lot more on this actually. Last week we did, here's my 2 cents on the presser gross. Here's more of it. I told you then, I'm telling you now, I could do this topic every single week. Maybe I'll just reference it every week just to show you how right I am. But they did not disappoint me this week. They absolutely did not disappoint. I just ask for some level of objectivity. Do this thing, they used to call it reporting. let's hear about a topic. Let's investigate it, and then we can report on it to people. Let's hold people to account. Let's hold the powerful to account. Now, am I advocating? I mentioned it earlier. Am I advocating that I want them to yell and scream over the president or his press secretary, or to debate with him, or to cut him off, or to do that thing that Jim Acosta did where he would just keep repeating the same question, keep repeating the same question, keep repeating the same question? I don't want that, actually. I want an open and honest dialogue. The open part is I ask you questions and then you answer them. When you say things that aren't necessarily in line with maybe what I have found, I then come back with, well, I'm hearing you say this portion. What is that? It sounds mundane and silly that I have to say this out loud, but it would just be so nice, especially if you identify in the same party or ideology as the person you're covering. Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. Let's see how they've been holding them accountable and how they've been objective. Juan, please play for me cut 5.
We have spoken with several migrants over the last several days, Andrea, both on this side of the border and over in Mexico, in Matamoros, Mexico, that said that they were encouraged by the change in administration. Many of them didn't know the specifics of President Biden's border policies, but what they did know is that he was not President Trump. And some of them did feel that now would be the time to come to the border.
Sorry about that. I was interacting over here. Did you hear the way he put a little context into that? I love context. I love context. You know what context is? I talk about it all the time. Context is, let me tell you how to see this. The context he threw in there was he did a tiny bit of reporting. He did a little bit of reporting when he said, well, they're telling us on this side and on the other side that, yeah, they're coming here because of Joe, not necessarily knowing his policies to help out Joe. We must help him out at all costs. Why don't you just say, we've been specifically told they're coming here because of Joe Biden, full stop. Why are you assigning any more to it? Why? Be objective. I asked the man a question. This is what he told me. He's basically covering for him. He had to insert his own portion there. He couldn't just tell us. Biden has everything to do with this. Biden has everything to do with this. Despite what he said in his presser today, that it was going up under Trump. Trump had spikes as well himself. Oh, no, I dropped my phone. Sorry about that, guys. Let me get this set up over here. All right, we're back. These things happen. Back to what Biden has said and done. He wants to go up there during his presser and say, well, they're coming here because I'm a nice guy. No, Joe, no. They're coming here because of your policies. They're coming here because they know you got rid of the Remain in Mexico mandate. I've already talked about it earlier. Trump said, if I catch you coming over, you're going back to Mexico. You got rid of that, Joe. Day one, Joe. Day one, you got rid of that. They know you're taking in all the children. There was a story one of the reporters told, and I call absolute BS, 100% BS. This reporter said that she had talked to a 9 and 10-year-old who had walked here from Honduras by themselves. Does anyone trust their 9-year-old to walk to the corner store and make it back? You're telling me a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, you said go that way until you hit America, and they did. And nothing horrible happened to them. I won't say what they are. I'll let you fill in the blanks. They were able to find food, shelter, water. 9 and 10-year-old. Someone tell me you would trust your child to walk to the corner store and back. Now, Joe Biden's going to say, people on the other side are going to say, they're so desperate. They're so desperate. Okay, but is there incentive on the other side, Joe? Is there an incentive to send your child north? Then Joe says, well, they stick a phone number on a bracelet. They stick a phone number in their pocket. Great. Thank you for giving them more ways to ensure the kid is going to come over the border. They keep wanting to say, who would do that? And then in the other breath, say, they're doing it because it's so bad there. Well, which one is it, Joe? Would you not do it, or would you do it? And if there's an incentive on the other side, which is they know you're taking in the children, and once the children are on the other side, they've got a phone number, and guess what? That phone number goes back to mom. Joe in the presser says, we'll probably send that kid back. Right, Joe. Right. Joe does want to address the overpopulation in Donna, Texas, specifically, which I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit. And he wants to say that he's now opening up, I believe it's Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso. And now, if you come over and you get caught, you're going to get to go to Fort Bliss where you get some nice accommodations. I mean, they're not the best. It's an Army base. I'm an Air Force guy. I got to tease you guys a little bit. I mean, it's not an Air Force base, but they're still going to get the accommodations. They know that they're going to be able to come over. And you can't, I've said it before, you can't continue to be Trump's fault. Your Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas himself has said it's an increase from last year. How can there be an increase, Joe, if it's the fault of the guy who's not there? You cannot have an increase if the guy isn't there and it be his fault. You're the president now, Joe, at least on paper. For now, you're the president and you promised to be transparent. Let me give you one more on this. Juan, can you please play for me cut 6?
Biden administration kept talking about transparency, and we're not getting any transparency here with what is happening at the border, that we have to get those images from a congressman who won't say where he got those images. It's very frustrating for not just journalists, but for the American public who want to know what's going on inside those facilities, those disturbing images.
All jokes aside, it's messed up. It's messed up what's going on at the border. And I do a lot of finger pointing. However, it goes back to when I say we have to identify what the problem is, and we also have to identify who is going to fix it. And right now we're being told it's going to be Kamala Harris, our VP. That's who I'm told is going to solve it. The media needs to do their job, please, to some degree. Please hold these people accountable. This is a terrible situation that is going on down at the border. And you have a part in this, media. You have a part in this. Why do you accept an answer of not today when you ask for access? Why do you accept that answer? Why? This is an absolutely horrible situation. And in a free society, which is governed by the people, we demand to see it. We demand it, and you produce it. You don't get to stand up there, Joseph R. Biden, and say, not now, not now. I'm going to show you that direct quote here in a little bit.